All right, you good to go, Bill? All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for coming today. And I really want to thank both of our senators for being with us for an important discussion of port and fishing-related matters, Senator Elizabeth Warren and Senator Ed Markey. I'll turn it over to them in a second, but I just want to, I really do want to take this occasion to thank both senators for their support of the Port of New Bedford, America's largest commercial fishing port, and a port that generates about 2% of the state's gross domestic product. It's a very significant place, a very significant economic asset, whose attributes we're doubling down on these days, and in so many ways, whether it's reorganizing the Harbor Development Commission, through marketing as well as infrastructure investment. And in those efforts, we need the support of our federal and state delegation. I note that we've got great support, of course, from Representative Tony Cabral and Paul Schmid and Bill Strauss and Chris Markey, all of whom are here today, and of course Ward 4 Councilor Dana Ribeiro, whose ward encompasses a good part of the waterfront. But our federal delegation plays a big part, and we're lucky that we have two senators who understand the commercial fishing industry's needs, especially those that part of the industry here in the city, in the port, and understand what it takes to fight for those needs, and so on behalf of those needs. So without any further ado, I just wanted to turn it over first to Senator Warren and then Senator Markey, just to say a few words about really about whatever's on your mind. But we're just so pleased that you are here today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. It is good to be here today in New Bedford. I love it every time I get a chance to come down here, and seeing all those fresh scallops down there has made me hungry. So that's what's coming up next. It's also good to be here with the elected representatives, and the reminder that the way a city like New Bedford flourishes, the way this entire region flourishes, is for all of us to work in partnership and to do the best we can to try to help have the infrastructure that will let businesses grow and flourish here. The fishing industry is an important part of the Massachusetts economy, and Senator Markey and I are committed to being the best possible partners we can. I worry about what's going to be possible in Washington, but I guarantee you this, we're going to be fighting for our fishermen. Ed, you want to say something?
Thank you. Yeah, I just want to echo what Elizabeth just said. We have a $9 billion industry here. It is central to the economy of New Bedford, but the whole state, 2% of the economy of the state, as the mayor once again reminded us in our briefing. And we want to make sure that the 21st century is just as prosperous and even more so than the 20th and the 19th century were for New Bedford. And we're going to work down in Washington every day to advocate for the commercial fishermen for the city of New Bedford.
Anybody have any questions?
Senator Bourne, who gets your reaction to what's happening with the healthcare legislation in Washington right now? It looks as if Republicans will not have the votes to pass the bill today.
The Republicans have tried to ram through a bill that would take health care coverage away from 24 million Americans, that would drive up the cost of health insurance for middle-class families, and as a bonus would provide a giant tax break for millionaires and billionaires. That's not health care reform. That's something that makes it harder for middle-class families to make it in America. Look, I think we did health care reform the right way in Massachusetts, and that is we passed it in 2006, bipartisan, Republicans and Democrats worked together, used a lot of ideas out of conservative think tanks, and then we didn't say, oh, that's it, we're done. We came back and we worked on it again and again, and we made adjustments, and we made some more adjustments. And when the Affordable Care Act was passed, we said, wait a minute, that gives us some more opportunities and obligations, so we'll make more adjustments. It's not that we have it perfect. I mean, the rest of us actually knew that health care is complicated, even though that seemed to be a shock to Donald Trump. We thought the right way to do health care is to keep working on it, because ultimately what we're trying to get is better health outcomes at lower cost, and to push in that direction. That's not where the Republicans want to go. I hope they fail in their efforts.
So when the president says let Obamacare stand if this bill doesn't pass and it'll implode upon itself, do you think that the Republican senators will work with you to continue to tinker with that?
I would like to see us improve the Affordable Care Act. What the president seems to have in mind is to do whatever he can without the legislature to undermine the Affordable Care Act. That doesn't help anyone. We watched him do this right after he got into office. First thing he did was stop the public service announcements for people to sign up for the Affordable Care Act. In other words, see if you can take the legs out from underneath the insurance companies that are trying to get enough people to make it work. So I don't want to be in a world where the president is trying with every tool he's got to beat the Affordable Care Act down. I want to be in a world where Republicans and Democrats come together, say, that's the basis on which we're working. Now let's find the ways to make it better. Find the ways to pull down the cost of health care and to increase health outcomes for American families.
Senator Markey, do you think that the Republicans would be willing to do that if this bill doesn't pass?
We wanted to work with the Republicans in 2009 and 2010 when we put the Affordable Care Act on the books. All that Mitch McConnell would say is their principal goal was to make Barack Obama a one-term president. We have been asking them for years, please work with us in order to improve the Affordable Care Act. It's based upon the Massachusetts law. The legislature and the governors since 2006 have tried to find ways of making it a better law, of trying to control costs and trying to ensure that everyone gets access to the health care which they need. So the Republicans right now have a problem. The bill which is on the floor of the House is by a 2-to-1 margin being viewed unfavorably by the American people if Obamacare is taken off the books. And so they're having an intramural Republican battle right now because many of these members in the House of Representatives come from states who will lose coverage and have to pay more money for health care. And so that's why we are seeing so many Republicans right now saying that it's going to be a difficult vote for them. And then when it reaches the Senate, if they take care of the concerns of the Freedom Party wing of the Republican Party, it's going to cause almost an impossible situation for moderate Republicans in the Senate to vote for it. So they have a big dilemma, and our hope is that ultimately the moderate Republicans will start to work with us in order to improve Obamacare, in order to help find constructive ways of lowering the annual cost increase, And that would be the ideal result, Democrats and Republicans, as Elizabeth said, working together.
What about the president's prediction that it will implode? Will Obamacare implode?
Look, I want to be clear. The president is already taking steps to try to force Obamacare to implode. That doesn't help American families. That's working exactly at odds with American families. If the Republicans are not able to strip away health insurance for millions of Americans, if they fail in their efforts today, the answer should not be, how can the president punish both Republicans and millions of American families? The answer should be, how can we work together to make this bill better? Whether or not Obamacare goes downhill is much more in the hands of the president, who wants to see it fail, than it is in the hands of Congress. We're the people, the Democrats. We want to see it succeed, and we want to try to make it better. That's what this should be about. You know, I know Washington's a very partisan place, and there's lots about Democrats and Republicans, but this is about the health of the American people. Now, even if the Republicans succeed today in cramming through this terrible bill, people will still have heart attacks. They'll still have strokes. Babies will still be born with complex medical problems, and they will all need care. And we're going to need to find a way to pay for that care. Here in Massachusetts, we have worked on that together, and we've had to make a lot of adjustments. We didn't get it all perfectly right the first time. That's what we want to be able to do at the federal level. Senator Markey and I are here to say we invite Republicans to come work with us to help make the Affordable Care Act better for everyone.
And if I could just add,
Please.
we'll just take one issue, opioid addiction. 2.8 million Americans get their coverage for addiction treatment under the Affordable Care Act. If the Republican bill passes, they lose their coverage for addiction. Now, we lost 2,000 people in Massachusetts last year to opioids. If you take away coverage, you take away treatment, then that number is going to explode in Massachusetts and all across the country. And opioids and many of these other issues that Elizabeth was talking about, they're bipartisan. We have to find smart ways of providing the treatment, providing the coverage. That's what the Affordable Care Act has done for the last 6 years. And if we strip out these protections, then there are going to be catastrophic consequences here in Massachusetts and all across the country.
Did you by any chance hear from the people who in the seafood industry today, whether or not how they would be affected by this proposed legislation?
We were talking about dredging today. Can I put in a plug for dredging? Dredging is a really important part of infrastructure in Massachusetts, and that was the principal subject, that and fisheries management.
That's why they're all here, Senator. They
That's
hear
right.
about dredging.
That's right. Actually, I like to hear about dredging now. I think it's very important. And it is a reminder, we make the investments in infrastructure, that's how we build a future. We heard example after example of what it will mean if we can get proper dredging, about new businesses, expanded businesses, more opportunities. That's what we want to see in New Bedford. That's what we want to see here in Massachusetts.
I think you have, speaking of business, I think you've got a date over at another
That's
interesting
right.
business, Amazon and Fall River,
That's
right?
right.
So,
Good.
all right, thank you, everybody, for
Good.
coming today.
Thank you for
Appreciate it.
being
Thank
here.
you for the great job you do.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Traditional light bulbs actually generate 9 times more heat than light. Switch to Energy Star light bulbs, and you'll realize just how much cash you are really burning through. Saving energy saves you money. Learn more at energysavers.gov.